On October 26, 2020, at 1:45 a.m., 6 men on motorcycles arrived at the farm of American missionary Philip Walton in Masalata, Niger. They were armed with Kalashnikovs and knew where they were going. When they broke down his door, Walton gave them his money, $40 American. The criminals were insulted by the small amount and wanted a high ransom. When he couldn't pay, they took him instead. His wife watched as he was driven away into the night. By sunrise, the kidnappers crossed into Nigeria. Within 18 hours, a ransom call was made for $1 million. At CIA headquarters in Langley, analysts immediately began tracking the cell phone used for the demand. The NSA's SIGINT satellites, intelligence-gathering satellites, moved overhead, pinpointing the phone's location, using triangulation across Niger's sparse cellular network. This process created a digital trail showing the direction and speed of travel. By October 28th, the cell phone trail went cold to the Nigerian border. However, other intelligence teams were already working. Marine Special Operations Command had ISR drones, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance drones, flying overhead. The kidnappers made a mistake by continuing to use the same phones. Back in the U.S., a special order was issued. SEAL Team 6 Silver Squadron received a warning order for a possible time-sensitive hostage rescue in West Africa. The operators, Special Forces soldiers, started getting their equipment ready. The clock was ticking. Philip Walton had 68 hours before his situation became much worse. The most powerful military on Earth began moving sophisticated aircraft and intelligence assets to bring him home. The information went up the chain of command, from Langley to the Pentagon, from AFRICOM to the White House. By dawn on October 29th, 0800 hours, President Trump was reviewing the intelligence package in the Situation Room. Satellite photos confirmed 6 structures made of mud brick and 1 vehicle about 200 miles from where Walton was taken. Thermal imaging counted 7 heat signatures, people. The CIA's phone surveillance tracked every call and text, allowing triangulation within a 50-meter circle. NSA's advanced computers analyzed voices and background noise. Billions of dollars in technology were focused on 7 criminals with old phones. At Naval Station Rota, Spain, the aircraft prepared for flight. 4 MC-130J Commando IIS, large transport planes, .4 CV-22 Ospreys, aircraft that fly like planes but land like helicopters, .1 AC-130J Ghost Rider gunship, a heavily armed plane with a 30mm cannon and 105mm howitzer. The logistics were massive. Each transport aircraft needed 21,000 pounds of fuel. The 30 operators of SEAL Team 6 Silver Squadron received their final mission briefing. They memorized the compound layout and knew the kidnappers' routine, finding predictable weak spots because they prayed 5 times a day. The entire mission depended on speed. The moment the operators landed, they would have only minutes before enemy fighters from the surrounding area arrived. The plan was not to land the helicopters because the noise would warn the enemy. Instead, they would perform a dropping from 25,000 feet in a silent insertion method. This required specialized halo rigs, high-altitude, low-opening parachutes, and oxygen systems because the temperature was minus 40 degrees Celsius, and they risked hypoxia, lack of oxygen. They would free fall at 126 miles per hour, dropping almost 20,000 vertical feet in 2 minutes, using navigation computers to compensate for wind. A sandstorm was expected within 36 hours, which would ground all aircraft. The decision had to be made immediately. At 1800 hours, President Trump approved the mission, stating, "American lives are not negotiable." As the mission began, intelligence detected a troubling sign. The kidnappers had contacted a known militant. The assault, on October 31st, 2020, 0230 hours, over northern Nigeria, the back ramp of the MC-130J opened. 30 operators wearing oxygen masks prepared to jump. After breathing pure oxygen to prepare, the jump master gave the signal. Green light. They stepped into the dark void. They maintained a tight freefall formation, using small body movements to steer while being tracked by GPS. They deployed their parachutes at 3,000 feet, slowing from 126 miles per hour to just 20 feet per second. Using their night visioning controls, they flew silently toward the target compound, 2.8 miles southeast. They landed perfectly at 0247 hours and immediately moved in a tactical formation across 3 miles of rough terrain. Their gear was optimized for surprise, using HK-416S short-barrel rifles, with suppressors to keep quiet and IR lasers, invisible to the naked eye. Thermal imaging drones confirmed 7 heat signatures in the compound, and then an 8th was spotted, a person on a motorcycle approaching from the east. The operators froze until the motorcycle passed by. At 0314 hours, they reached a compound wall 8 feet high with broken glass on top. They placed breaching charges, explosives, to blow the gate without collapsing the mud walls and got flashbangs ready. Silver Squadron lined up at the breach point. At 0315 hours, the explosion blew the main gate inward. The operators rushed through. The 2 guards outside were neutralized instantly. The team split up to clear assigned areas. Building 1, clear. Building 2, 2 targets neutralized. 6 targets were down, but Philip Walton was missing. Movement was seen in Building 5. An operator kicked the door. Inside, a terrified, bearded figure huddled in the corner. "American, American," cried Philip Walton. "We're here to take you home," the operator said. The 7th kidnapper was spotted fleeing on foot. The team leader decided not to pursue, prioritizing the mission, secure the package, Walton. Outside, the situation worsened quickly. Technical trucks, armed vehicles, were moving, and RPG teams, rocket-propelled grenade teams, were setting up on rooftops. The extraction window was rapidly closing. The Ospreys were coming, but they needed a safe landing zone. That's when the AC-130 gunship fired its weapons. The 30mm cannon fired 200 rounds per minute, destroying a technical truck. The 105mm howitzer created a crater out of an enemy position. The Ospreys landed, and Silver Squadron rushed aboard with Philip Walton. As they lifted off, small arms fire sparked harmlessly off the aircraft's armor. The door gunners returned fire. In 2 minutes, they were safely away. The entire mission took 11 minutes. Targets neutralized. 6 Americans rescued. 1 United States casualties. 0. At 0342 hours, Philip Walton called his wife from the aircraft. "Honey," he said, "I'm coming home." Philip Walton is an American citizen and missionary, described as a farmer who kept camels, sheep, and poultry and grew mangoes. At the time of his abduction, he was 27 years old and had been living in the village of Masalata in southern Niger with his wife and child for 2 years. His father, also a missionary, had lived in Niger for about 30 years. Walton was kidnapped from his home in the early morning of October 27, 2020, by a group of 6 armed men. They initially demanded money, but after he could only offer a small amount, $40 US, they abducted him and crossed the border into northern Nigeria. The primary reason for the urgent and direct military intervention was the immediate and high risk to Philip Walton's life. Officials feared that the criminal gang, which initially demanded a $1 million ransom from Walton's father, would sell him to larger, more dangerous terrorist organizations operating in northern Nigeria, such as groups linked to Islamic State, IS, or Al-Qaeda. This transfer would have made a rescue far more difficult and less likely to succeed. The U.S. government operates under the policy of securing the safe return of all American citizens held captive, and the president at the time stated that the safety of Americans held abroad was a top national security priority. Paying a large ransom could be used to fund further terrorism and criminal activity in the region, which the U.S. seeks to avoid. The window of opportunity was tight. Only about 96 hours passed between the kidnapping and the rescue, emphasizing the urgency to act before his captors could move him to an unknown, harder-to-reach location. The performance of the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, DevGru, Silver Squadron, commonly known as SEAL Team 6, and the supporting military personnel was exceptional, 5/5, demonstrating exceptional skill, precision, and bravery. The operation was successful with 0 U.S. casualties. This is a rare and highly commendable result for a complex, hostile hostage rescue mission executed at night. The mission was completed within approximately 48 hours of the initial warning order. It relied on seamless coordination between the CIA, Intelligence, Marine Special Operations Command, Location, and Air Force Special Operations Command, Transport, including what was described as a longest-distance hostage rescue conducted during the night in the history of the U.S. Department of Defense. The overall operation was described by the then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo as outstanding, a sentiment backed by the fact that several airmen involved later received high honors, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, for their heroic aerial support. The mission was a definitive tactical and strategic victory. The following video discusses the extreme distances and resources involved in high-stakes Special Forces operations in Africa.